Hey guys, and today we're going to go through all of my pickups for June 2023. So, to start out, a few hardware things that I got this month. Most like two most notable things here would be PlayStation VR 1. This is the Model 1 of the PlayStation VR that first came out, where it's got the controls for it is all in the cord with this white dongle piece. I never had the VR one. I did try it out for a few friends back then. I had the HTC Vive when that first came out, but I just never picked up the PlayStation VR at all. There still is, like, a few exclusive titles on this system compared to that. Well, that you can't play on the VR2 at all because it's not backwards compatible, unfortunately. And what's cool about this is I ordered it online, and excuse me, the listing that I got it from, he claimed that it was only used like 5 times, I think. And he had like the original box with everything down to like the original plastic materials, keeping everything in. Like it was all in like beautiful brand new condition, and yeah, it was barely used at all. It was like an open box product, and it was essentially like brand new at the same time. And I picked like the whole kit up, and it also came with the camera as well too. And it was like around like $130 for the entire kit. My opinion, really, really good deal for this, for like essentially what was like a brand new product, let's be honest. And I gotta say, been a lot of fun. I played Doom 3 VR. I platinumed that game, and wow, that was absolutely awesome. Have played like plenty of other things on it too, and you'll see some of the stuff when we go over it, because we got a lot of stuff to go over, truth be told us. So yeah, there's that. And the next thing we got the VR2. So yeah, not long after I got the VR one, I just went out and got the PlayStation VR 2. It was basically like the same story with the VR one, where I just saw a listing on eBay, and it was essentially like an open box product where they only used it maybe like 2, 3 times. Had all the original packing material, the original box, and they even had the charging station for the controllers as well. And after like estimating compared to if I had just like bought it directly from Sony for everything, I was saving between like $200 to $250 for the entire kit. And I gotta say, this is really impressive. Like I have the Valve Index, and that really awesome when I got that back in 2020. But this has a lot of like new things in it that makes it like very impressive overall too. Do hope that they like Sony and third-party developers really do support this. Like the one thing I'm looking forward to with this is Resident Evil 4 remake in VR. Oh, I'm gonna play the like crap out of that when that comes out. But yeah, VR 2 got it for a really really good deal. Essentially, it was brand new, and overall, I've been loving it quite a lot. All right, on to some games. So real quick, the majority of all this stuff, probably like, as I want to count here, there's maybe like 80 games or something like that here. Maybe less than that, though, slightly, but like 90% of this is all PS4 stuff, so I'm just gonna real quick go through like all the other systems that I got games for. First being the 3DS, the first, and these are both Japanese imports. First thing is Mario versus Donkey Kong Tipping Stars. I think that's what this one was. In the States, we got this on only on the eShop digitally. We never got this physically, but over in Japan, they did get this physically for some reason. The same thing for the Wii U version of that game too. That came out physically in Japan, and it did come out in Europe, but I think that was only like a digital download on the Wii U. Next game, I can't remember the name, but I know it has Kawase, if I recall. It's you guys see the name in the corner there, but this is basically like a platforming puzzle game. We once again we got this on the eShop in the States, digital only, but in Japan they did get this game physically here. So same philosophy of why I got that. And the last thing is Guild 1. This is a compilation of four games, and one of them is Arrow Porter, which in the States we got that on the eShop digitally. And the second one, the most notable thing, I can't remember the name of this game, but it's made by Suda51, and you play as the Japanese president. I don't know if you can tell from the screenshot right there, but you go. She has to like defend her country. It's like similar to like Metal Wolf Chaos. Now that I think about it, that you're playing as like the president of Japan. She gets into like this flying mech, and you have to just like defend the city. From what I remember, that seemed like what it was about. Once again, that we got that in the States, and that came out physically in that release there over in Japan. So quite interesting to get those there, and those are sealed because the 3DS is region locked, so I can't actually use those on my systems. But wanted to get those just to have a physical versions of those games. All right, two PS2 games. We got Dot Hack GU Volume 2. This is part two of the GU trilogy on the PS2. We did get this series a few years ago on the PS4, where they did include a fourth volume, but on the PS2 it was just like originally three games. And excuse me, sorry. And did get I just had to like get this and like one other to complete the dot hack set on the PS2. And the last one I needed was Dot Hack GU Volume 3. Just needed to get this, like I said, to complete the trilogy on the PS2, and now I have every single Dot Hack game on the PS2, including the Japan exclusive Dot Hack Fragment. Maybe I'll get like a picture of that so you can see how all those games look all side by side, because you know they all make a pretty beautiful picture on the spine. So yeah, quite cool to get that finally. All right, one PS5 game I got is Sifu Vengeance Edition. This has a steelbook case and an art book for this edition specifically. It's basically like a 3D brawler game. I really do like how the art style looks for this. I haven't played it yet, but do look forward to playing it eventually. All right. Now, the story with this game, we did get this in the States, but it was only through the Sega channel on the Genesis. There was a physical release in Europe. I don't know about Japan, but it definitely did come out in Europe. And we just never had like a physical edition of this game on the Genesis until recently. And the game in question is Mega Man: The Wily Wars. This release was done by Retrobit. They've done like other notable releases on for like other retro systems. Like they did that Double Dragon and Battletoads re-release. It was a pretty cool set that they did for that, and I think they did the Valis collection as well. But this in particular, like I said, we only got this in the States through the Sega Channel, a service you could sign up for on the Genesis back then. And this is basically a Mega Man 1, 2, and 3 from the NES, but with the Super Mario All-Stars treatment, where there's 16-bit remakes of those said three games, and they're very well done. And what's pretty cool with those games is you can use the power-ups from like one game into another. So for like, you know, Mega Man 3, if you want to use the power-ups from Mega Man 2, like you can play like a custom game and put those in there if you want. And yep, this is like a sealed copy of it. I don't know if I will open it, but nonetheless, pretty cool to have it as a big Mega Man fan. And it did come with like this card set here that I haven't opened either. All right, this last thing, this to me, this was the biggest thing that I got, like aside from the VR stuff. But this is one of my favorite games of all time, and I recently played it like a few years ago, and I really hate myself that I didn't play this much sooner. But the game in question, it's Valhalla, the collector's edition for the Vita. Yeah, like I said, this is one of my favorite games of all time, and all you do in this game is you're a bartender and you serve drinks to your clients and listen to them talk. So you may think in hindsight, like, really, that's one of your favorite games ever. It's like, believe me, it's everything else around the game that makes it as good as it is. The characters are very interesting. They always have something funny, unique, or very interesting to say, because this is a cyberpunk futuristic game, keep in mind. So when you hear them talk and talking about, the world that they live in, like, it's all interesting to hear what they're saying, right? And the music is one of the best soundtracks in any video game, period. Like, I listen to it like almost like every other day. It's that good. And as like the story progresses, you learn more about the characters. You learn more about them. That it definitely gets you the feels going for some of them. And the thing is, if you remember what they order for their drinks, and if you keep that in mind, and you apply that knowledge to like later drinks, so that like they may tell you to make one thing, and you don't make because you make this other thing that they mentioned, like that will change the outcome of the story too, and get you different endings. So it's not just like something that couldn't be like that could have been something like a movie or anything. No, it legit works very well as a game. This edition, I don't I'll remember that comes with it. I'm not going to open it right now, but one thing that's cool is you can open up the front and you'll see like artwork of the main character, Jill. And by the way, that's a Vita right there, right next to her hand there. That was a nice touch they did. And just other characters. What's pretty cool is one other game called 2064, which takes place in like the same universe as Valhalla. If you get the collector's edition for that, for the Vita, you can put it side by side, and there's like magnets right in on this side of the box, and on 2064, like same thing. There's magnets on one side of the box, and you can open that up, and it has like a whole art piece is made with this here. Do plan on getting that inevitably, but I had to get Valhalla. It showed up for a very, very good price, and given that this is a limited run release, kind of like an early one, somewhat, it prices would be like all over for this thing, but this popped up and this was sealed, and of course I'm gonna open it because it's one of my favorite games ever, and I did not hesitate for the price that I saw for it. So, yes, Valhalla, play this game. This is you can beat this in like one sitting possibly, and the story, the characters, like it's all so memorable and good. They are making a sequel to this. It's called Nirvana, and the developers, they've been having issues making that game, but it's still coming out though eventually. Just whenever it happens, hey, it'll come out whenever it's ready. All right, now the rest of this stuff is all well, except never mind. There's one last game here. All right, the last thing here before this big stack is a PS3 game called Child of Eden. This looks like a game similar to like Res Infinite, where you're in like this weird world and flying through stuff that's like really trippy looking. That's just what it looks like on the back from like the snippets of gameplay that I've seen. And this was like a brand new copy that I got too, though. So yeah, quite cool to get that. Right now, the rest of the stuff is all PS4 games. Because PS4 is a system that is like the previous gen system, and right now we're in the phase where a lot of the games are very, very cheap, and a lot of stores are just trying to like get rid of that stuff. So as a result, for like the stores that I went to get like most of this stuff, they would have like sales going on, and if you like buy like enough, you get like so and so for free. So definitely capitalize on that. So I'm gonna try to get through all of this as quick as we can because we got a lot to go through here. First game question, Bloodborne. I did play Bloodborne back when it first came out. I just never owned a physical of it because it was digitally that I played it. And to me, this is still the best PS4 exclusive to this day. Hopefully it comes to PC one of these days or just to other platforms because, it's really good. Next one, Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus. I did play this game a little bit on a PC when it first came out. I didn't play through it though. I've only been like the first two chapters, but maybe I'll go back to it and finish it up with this. And next one, Wolfenstein: The New Order and The Old Blood, the double pack. I did play the New Order when that first came out. Same for the Old Blood, because like both of these games are fantastic. Like very very good single player first person shooter campaigns. That the story is very very good. The characters are very well done, and the gameplay is a lot of fun. Do try the series out; it's really good. But Young Blood though, that's from what I understand, that was a big letdown. Next one, Middle Earth: Shadow of War. This is the sequel to Shadow of Mordor. I remember this was a very controversial game when this came out because of the greedy monetization they tried doing to this, where they shoved microtransaction into the single player game, and then like years later they pulled all of it out. They did do like a Game of the Year edition of this. I already had like the season pass for this because it was like on sale for dirt cheap, and this was dirt cheap, of course. So yeah, just went that route for getting that. Next game, Batman Arkham Knight. I originally played this on a PC, and if you guys know about this game when it first came out on PC is one of the worst PC ports ever. That like the best way to play it was the console versions. Then months later, the PC version got fixed, and that's how I originally played the game. But never had a physical of it, hence why that I got it. All right, next game is Batman Arkham VR. This is like the one Arkham game that I have not played through yet. I played through like all the other Arkham games, even like Blackgate on handhelds, but just never had like this at all, whether on like PC VR. But hopefully I'll be able to go through it now on the PlayStation VR probably. All right, next game, Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne HD Remaster. This originally was a PS2 game that infamously was a really hard RPG on there, and I do hear it's one of the better SMT games that's not Persona, and this will be like the one version that I'll play of it. So yeah, do look forward to that. Next game, Bravo Team VR. From what I remember, this seemed like a rail shooter, a VR game, and you guys should know I like rail shooters. I adore that genre so much, hence why that I got this. So hopefully it turns out good. Next game, Farpoint. This was a pack-in game for the PlayStation VR aim controller that you could get like bundles with that controller, and this game more than likely would come with it. In fact, I think that's what this copy was from, because it's a not for resale copy right here. And from what it looked like, it's like a kind of like a first-person shooter campaign that with like VR aim controllers. So yeah, it hopefully it turns out good because it does look quite fun. Probably the one PlayStation VR game that is very notable for the system and wish they would port this to the VR2 in some way. Astrobot Rescue Mission. I did play this a little bit ago, and my God, what a good platformer this was. Like, I did play Astro's Playroom on the PS5 because that was a pack-in game for that system, and wow, what a love letter that was to PlayStation as a whole. And this was basically like a normal platformer for the PlayStation VR, and was a really good showcase for how to do a platformer for VR. So yeah, do get this and play it if you haven't already. Next game, Valkyria Revolution. This was a spin-off game, and I gotta fix the artwork here. This was like a spin-off game for Valkyria Chronicles, as it takes place in the same universe, but this was more like a hack and slash Muso type game compared to like the unique strategy RPG that the Valkyria Chronicles games were mostly well known for. This did not get good reviews at all when it came out, but looking at the gameplay of it, like it looks fun, honestly, but I won't know for sure until I actually play it though. Next game, Battlezone. I believe this was a launch title for the PlayStation VR, and it's basically like those retro, very early 3D tank games. If you guys would know what I'm talking about for like how I explained that, but basically like a modernized VR version of that whole concept. I believe this does have multiplayer in it, and you just like fight other people in like these futuristic looking tanks. Okay, next stack. We got Pac-Man Championship Edition 2 plus Arcade Game Series. The Championship Edition 2, like to me, it's a weaker title compared to the Championship Edition DX Plus. That game was very, very fun, very addicting. But this also came with, the classic Galaga, Pac-Man, and Dick Dug games as well, too. Just pretty cheap to get this. Next name, Disaster Report 4 Summer Memories. I believe this series was on the PS2 originally, and they like left the series dormant for the longest time until this entry. Basically, like a whole disaster is happening in the town that you're in, which I believe is Tokyo in this instance, and you gotta like survive essentially. They did make a VR mode for this too, so very curious to see how that plays out. Next game, Firewall Zero Hour. This is a multiplayer, online only game for the PlayStation VR that uses the aim controller pretty well, matter of fact. Not sure if like there's still a community for this, but because like I essentially got this for free along with like all the other stuff that I was getting, so yeah, why not? Next game, The Order 1886. You guys remember this? Honestly, was probably going to be like a launch title for the PS4 when it first came out, but it got delayed for the longest time. And it just shows that it was really like a game meant to be like a tech demo for the system at the time. Don't know if it holds up at all, but even then, it got mixed reception, in all honesty. But with like the price it goes for now, like it doesn't hurt to try it out though. Next name is Omnimusha Warlords. I think I said that right. This is an HD remaster of the PS2 game of the same exact name. This is basically like I think it was like a samurai Resident Evil game, is a good way to put it. It is made by Capcom, so you'll definitely see the influences from there. That does look really fun. I do plan on getting like the other games on the PS6. They made three games back on that system, and this is the only one that we got, I think, of the original trilogy. Next game, Infamous First Light. We did get this game in the States, but it was a digital only release, and that's how I played it when it first came out. But over in Europe, they did get a physical of it, as you see here. And online, like, this game does have a little bit of value to it, but local game store, they had it, and it was essentially like half off compared to what it goes for online, so definitely picked it up then and there. Next game, Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition. I did have the collector's edition of this game on the PS4 when it came out, but as I said many times, I just absolutely despise what Sony is doing with collector's editions of their games nowadays, that I got rid of my Horizon Zero Dawn edition for that. But just this was pretty much thrown in for free, combined with buying like the amount that I did here, and I still haven't played through this game at all because I'm just not a big fan of most Sony first party games these days because they all are like the same game if you ask me. Next game, Owlboy. If I remember, this game was, I think it's one of those indie games that was made by one person, and it was in development for the longest time. And like, if that's true, where like this is made by one person, wow, did they do a great job with this game? Because this has very beautiful pixel art. This is a Metroidvania game, if I remember correctly. So yeah, do pick this up if you're into that genre. All right, next game, Okami HD Edition. This was back then. This was like a hidden gem back on the sixth gen consoles. That I believe this was maybe like a PS2 exclusive when it first came out. But since then, this game has been ported to multiple platforms since then, and now it's pretty much gotten the recognition that it deserves. So, but cool that it got a PS4 release. Next game, Until Dawn: Rush of Blood. This was a launch title for the PlayStation VR, and it's basically like a rail shooter that you're just sitting in a cart and you just like a roller coaster, sorry, and you just like you go down like insane ride, just shooting stuff as they come by at you. That one could argue this was kind of like a tech demo in a way for the system, but it was still like a kind of like a well-made game at the same time. And next game is Ace Attorney Phoenix Wright Trilogy. This This is the first time I have ever played a Phoenix Wright, and I'm ashamed to admit that, but then again, that doesn't seem to be like an uncommon thing for a lot of people for that know about this series. I only played like the first game of the trilogy, and oh my God, like it was so interesting, funny, so funny at a lot of times. The music is awesome too, and yeah, like I'm looking forward to playing through the rest of these and the entire series afterwards too. So yeah, I'm definitely become a big fan of Ace Attorney now. Next game, Doom VFR. This was Bethesda's attempt to make Doom 2016 into VR, and from what I remember, this got like a mixed reception when it came out, but it looks fun. It's Doom 2016 VR, but it seems like just a rail shooter. Like you're just going to be in a fixed position and just shooting at demons. I think that's what I remember from seeing gameplay, but when I get to it, though, we'll just judge it from there. Next game, Persona 5 Strikers. I did play this on PC when it first came out. I didn't finish it, unfortunately. It is a sequel to the events of Persona 5 or Royal. Like it takes place right after the events of that, but I think it like leaves out the new character that they added into Royal. And they do introduce a new character to the Phantom Thieves in this game, and it's a complete new story that's similar to the quality of like Persona 5 from what I remember. The thing is, this is a Muso game, so it's the same gameplay from Dynasty Warriors and Hyrule Warriors, but in my opinion, this is the best Muso game ever because they implement the some like features from the actual Persona games into a Muso game, and it's very well done. On top of like the reasons why people love Muso games is very well done in this too. So yeah, if you're a fan of those types of games and of Persona, do pick this up. Right, we're getting there. Next stack is Near Automata Game of the Yora Edition. I do have this on PC, but if you guys remember, it is not a great version of the game, especially when it came out, and it took them forever to fix it, at least for the Steam version. But had to get like a physical edition of it. This is one of those games on my backlog that I desperately really want to play, but maybe after like the next few things that I'm playing currently, when I'm done with that, maybe that's when I'll finally play this. But it's basically like a hack and slash game similar to like Devil May Cry and Bayonetta. But the universe that this takes place in, it's like a post-apocalyptic world that they send out like these cyborgs to like protect humans. If I recall, that's what's going on in here. This game did get a recent anime adaptation. From what I've seen, does seem to be doing pretty good. And yeah, and after this game came out, this became like a very beloved IP overall, all thanks to this game. Because from what I understand, like the story is phenomenal in this game. There's multiple endings you can get, and it's one of those few games where it has a lot of like profound moments, similar to like Metal Gear Solid 2, for if you understand like the true nature of that game's narrative and all that. So the same similar thing that's going on in this game. So yeah, look forward to playing this real soon, hopefully. Right, next game, Duke Nukem 3D World Tour 20th Anniversary. This is once again like another remastered version of a Duke Nukem 3D, which still is a very good boomer shooter. I guess that's what we're calling these types of games nowadays. I did play like we will be like episode 1 of this all the way through. I haven't played the other ones yet, but hey, when I get to it, looking forward to it. Next game, Bloodstain Ritual of the Night. I did play this on a PC when it first came out, and wow, this was a really good Metroidvania game, and thank God it lived up to expectations for the most part, because this was a Kickstarter game made by Koji Igarashi, I think that's what his name was. He was the developer, like the lead creator for Castlevania Symphony of the Night and all of the post Castlevania games after that, where they turned it into a Metroidvania series and therefore helped establish Metroidvania as a genre in the industry. So this was the next thing that he made after he left Capcom, and a very successful Kickstarter it was, and thank God it lived up to being to expectations and turned out to be a good game. Because before this, there was like the trend that a lot of those games that they were made by someone that was very well known, and but the game ended up being complete garbage. Like the biggest thing that comes to mind for that is Mighty Number Nine, the where the guy that made Mega Man, I can't remember his name right now, that kickstarted that and just turned out to be a complete failure. Thank God, Bloodstain, that was not the case. Next game, Final Fantasy 15 Royal Edition. I do have the collector, the no, the Ultima edition of Final Fantasy 15 on PS4. It's just stored away elsewhere in containers because of how big that thing is. But I didn't get like the DLC for it, and I just like waited out for this version to like get it all on one disc essentially. And this is such a weird entry in the Final Fantasy series overall. Like, it's an enjoyable game, yeah, but when you're thinking of it as like a Final Fantasy game, like, this is a weird entry overall. Definitely worth playing, whether if you're a fan of the series or not, but have, reasonable expectations, let's just say. So, yeah, there's that. All right, now, a couple Resident Evil games here. The first one is Resident Evil Revelations 2. I really enjoyed this game when it first came out, and this was in the situation, the part or like the series history where the last like mainline entry was Resident Evil 6, and understandably we all hated that game so much, and for like expectations were like very low on Capcom for anything new coming out of the series, and this, well, it did good, but it could have done a lot better, I feel. Just the weird thing about this game is the way that they released it. Originally, this was like an episodic game. Not in the way like a Telltale game was, where it was like once every month a new episode would come out. It would be like episode one comes out, and then next week the next episode of this game came out. It was really bizarre, and they had no reason to do that at all, other than just like experimentation, and it was just dumb at the end of the day. But as a whole, though, the game's pretty good. I highly recommend it. It was the return of Barry and Claire as playable characters, and they did Barry pretty good in this game, my opinion. Next game, Resident Evil Revelations. This originally was a 3DS game, and it has been ported to like everything since then. When it first came out, it was a step in the right direction because this, I'm sure this was the next Resident Evil game right after 6. Oh, wait, no, prior to this was the Mercenaries 3D, but then prior to that one, I think, was Resident Evil 6. And yeah, that left people in such a bad taste for the series. But Revelations, though, one, this was a step in the right direction for the series. Nowadays, though, this is a game I can't really go back to because it just feels really aged, honestly, compared to like all of the recent like RE Engine era of Resident Evil since Resident Evil 7. That this game just feels really dated and is not that fun to play anymore, for me at least. Resident Evil Origins Collection. This is a compilation of Resident Evil Remake and Resident Evil Zero. Resident Evil Remake, a remake of the very first Resident Evil game, still holds up very well. One of the best games in the series, one of the best survival horror games in the series, and the remastered version, whether it's like this version or preferably the PC version, you play that, that's the best way to experience this game. Resident Evil Zero, it's you talk to one person, they'll have like a completely different take on the game. For me, I'm like mixed on Resident Evil Zero, but still worth playing though if you're a fan of the series. Next game is Resident Evil 7 Biohazard Gold Edition. I did play Resident Evil 7 on PC when that came out. I was really skeptical of the game because, the prior mainline game was a 6 at the time, and I had like no faith in Capcom at that point. But days before 7 came out, when we were really seeing like all gameplay of it, it's like, then and seeing all of it's like, all right, I'm convinced I'll buy this game on launch day. And wow, what a return to form the this game was for the series. It saved the series essentially, and was the start of a new direction because the engine they made for this, the RE engine, like this was the start of that, and still looks gorgeous to this day. That they've still used it for the most recent RE game, today Resident Evil 4 remake. In hindsight, nowadays for Resident Evil 7, I I don't look forward to playing this much compared to other entries throughout the series because the first playthrough was awesome, right? But replaying it though, like it's not that great, honestly, because there's only like one, essentially like one enemy type throughout the whole game when you're not including the Baker family. No, but thankfully, like the DLC was pretty good for this game, and also another thing too, the last like 10-20% of the game was awful. Like the section where you switch to Mia and you're on the ship, and then when you regain control of Ethan, like all that was just bad. That ruined the pace of 7. But prior to that, like awesome game it is. But yeah, your first playthrough of that will be very good. But when you get to like the last few sections of that game, it just sucks. Truth be told. And all right, next game, Everybody's Golf VR. We would know this series in the States as Hot Shots Golf, but for some reason, for this release, and this is North American release, you see the ASRB, where they just called it Everybody's Golf, because that's what this is called in like other countries, Everybody's Golf, but in the States, it's Hot Shots Golf. This was the last game in this franchise that we have gotten. Prior to this was on the PS3 and Vita, if I remember correctly. I haven't played it yet though, and from what I understand of like what has happened to the developers recently, they were like bought out by some other company, if I remember, and because of that, it's likely we'll never see another game in this series, from what I understand. But nonetheless, hope this turned out pretty good though. And all the older games, like they're still pretty fun to play. That's like the only like golf games that I play, truth be told. All right, next game is Knack. This was a launch title for the PS4. I do remember, like, seeing this game constantly because I did get the PS4. It was a Christmas gift around the same year that it came out in 2013. But I didn't get this around that time, though, at all until now. And this game, from what I understand, it's like a pretty mediocre 3D platformer. It is it's made by, for like the lead oh, excuse me, sorry. The lead creator of this is Mike Cerny, who nowadays we know him as being like the lead architect of the PlayStation consoles ever since the PS4. He did the same thing for the PS5. He was the lead architecture for that too, and this was a game that he was heavily involved in as well as its sequel too. All right, next game is Mega Man Legacy Collection. I already played through like all these games on Steam back then. I did have the 3DS collector's edition where it came with the gold Mega Man amiibo, but if you guys know me back then, like I sold all my amiibos off. There's videos on my channel showing the whole collection and telling you why I sold it back then. That you can search for it there. But yeah, wanted to get like physical, like a disc copy of it on the PS4 for this set. Do plan on getting all the other Legacy collections that they released for Mega Man as well. All right, next game is Metro Redux. I did play these games digitally on the PS4 back when they first came out, but just never had a physical of it until now. And I did later on like really play through like both of these games on Steam because they're first person shooters. They play best on PC, of course. And man, what still an underrated series this is. Honestly, it's like a post apocalyptic a Cold War era the setting, if I recall, and where like there's like a nuclear fallout that has happened throughout Russia, and you're playing as like these soldiers that are in like these underground bunkers, and they have to survive. And but when they go outside, like there's a lot of like mutated creatures that you have to fend off, right? And the story and the characters very, very well done. So yeah, if you're into good single player first person shooters, like do try out this series. All right, we're almost there. And the next game is Doom 2016. I did get the collector's edition of this on PC when it first came out, and man, what a game this was. And I don't understand why, like, before this came out, everybody, for like fans and publications, were trashing this game before it came out. I don't understand that. Like, the gameplay we saw of it when they finally revealed it after for how long that they developed this was a game that was in development hell for the longest time, believe it or not. But when we finally saw gameplay, like to me, like I thought this game looks awesome. I can't wait to play it, but a good amount of people were trashing it for some reason. The multiplayer beta that did come out for is like, yeah, that got panned for a good reason, but people were still skeptical about it. And then when it finally came out, yeah, people were proven wrong. And I wasn't because, this game was going to be awesome, and it still is to this day. It's a good return to form for the Doom series. Not to say Doom 3 was phenomenal, and I love that game so much, just as much as this and Doom Eternal. But this game, if you still haven't played it and you love action-packed first-person shooters, very well done campaigns, like, play this game. It is such a good game overall. Right, next game, Ni no Kuni 2 Revenant Kingdom. This is a sequel to the first Ni no Kuni game that came out on the PS3 first, I believe, and they did remaster that on the PS4. I don't have that yet, but regardless, so got the second game. And last but not least is Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin. It was strange when like Dark Souls 2 when it first came out. The PS4 and the Xbox One, they were already out at the time, but they just didn't bring out Dark Souls 2 on those systems for some reason. They released it on the previous gen consoles. But, like a year or two later, they then did release this version where it came with all the DLC, and there's new items and enemy placements too in this version. So still like a different enough version, you could argue, of Dark Souls 2. And people will say like this is the weakest entry in the series, but still a great game overall that you absolutely have to play though if you do you like this series. Like you still don't miss up on this game, but it is the weakest of the Dark Souls games. And that is it. So you see, there's a lot of stuff, but PS4 stuff super cheap these days. A lot of stores, they're trying to get rid of that stuff. So much sales going on. Of course, I am capitalizing on it, so definitely did a good chunk as you've seen here, but still have plenty of other stuff to go through though. So with that said, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like it, share it with your friends, and please subscribe for more content like this in the future. Until then, guys, I'll see you next time, and I need a big glass of water right now and probably a daiquiri mix. See you guys next time.